Hello there, my friends. Welcome to Careers Without 4 Years. I'm Melanie Dunn. I'm a workforce development professional, and this podcast is for anyone who wants to find out where the opportunity is in today's job market for great careers that don't require 4-year degrees. The economy has changed. Today, most jobs don't require bachelor's degrees. We'll hear from professionals in technology, healthcare, the trades, and other industries who love what they do and make a good living at it. In addition, we'll learn how to shop for affordable training, how to pay for it with grants and loans without excessive costs or debt, or even find free training. And if you are a woman or person of color, please listen in for inspiring stories by people who are thriving in careers you may not have seen yourself in. My guest today is Carly Poppe, a diagnostic medical sonographer at St. Barnabas Medical Center in Livingston, New Jersey. Demand for medical sonographers is very high, and growth is expected between 12 and 19% between 2019 and 2029. To train for this career, Carly obtained an Associate in Science degree at Union County College in cooperation with the Muhlenberg-Snyder Schools. In this episode, you'll find out if a career in diagnostic medical sonography may be right for you, how to avoid costly for-profit college enrollment schemes, and what to look for when choosing an education provider. I happened to meet Carly on the job in the emergency room 2 months ago. If you've ever been to the ER with a loved one, you will understand the difference a caring and skilled healthcare provider makes. My daughter had a medical emergency, and it was 1 a.m. when she was wheeled into a room to receive a diagnostic ultrasound. Like any concerned mother, I watched the screen as Carly scanned my daughter's abdomen, totally helpless. Like most people, I had no idea what the red and green lights sparkling in my daughter's body indicated. But I wondered at the incredible amount of data Carly was reading. How she managed to do this while keeping my daughter and me calm, I'll never know. Thankfully, all this information allowed my daughter to get into surgery quickly. In the tense hours that followed, I felt so much gratitude that she was in good hands. Carly had shown the radiologist and the surgeon precisely where the problem was. Here's our interview. Carly, I'm so happy to have you on the show today. You're a diagnostic medical sonographer in St. Barnabas Medical Center. As you know, and I know, that's where we both met.
Yes.
My daughter was actually a patient up there when I met Carly, and she just did such an amazing job, and she kept me calm the whole time.
Aww.
And so the first thing I wanted to ask you is, just for the layperson, what does a diagnostic medical sonographer do?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm flattered. Thank you for saying all that. And your daughter was an easy patient, so I got lucky. What do? We basically use sound waves to look inside your body, make sure your organs are looking good. There's a lot of different things that we image. I feel like people, they hear ultrasound and they just automatically think babies. And that's not the case. So, we can see gallstones, kidney stones, any masses that you may have. We can see your aorta, ruptured aorta. The list goes on and on. There's a ton of stuff that we do.
Wow. How would you describe, I was in a hospital and you were working in the ER that night, and I know it was very early in the morning, like 1 or 2 in the morning. What is a typical shift for you, and what type of work are you doing during that shift?
Well, every shift is different. And that's just because with a hospital, you walk in and you don't really know what you're getting yourself into. Typical shift, I don't know. I'd say I get in, we do a lot of, if someone has abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, we'll scan their liver, kidneys, gallbladder, pancreas, spleen. We see a lot of that. We go portable a lot. So we'll take our portable machine. We'll go to the ICU. Those are for patients that can't come down to the department. So if they're intubated or vented, or if they're on some sort of precaution, now with COVID patients, we go portable to them. We don't want them coming down. And we'll go and just make sure everything looks good. Whatever complaint that the patient's having, we go to that area and we look to see if anything's going on in there.
So what other medical personnel do you work with? I saw you working this incredible ultrasound machine, and it looked like there were so many calculations going on as you moved. What do you call that you held? The stylus, or what you were?
The
probe around her belly, right? And it seemed extremely complex to me. I was looking at it, trying to see logic, like, what does this mean? And I just gave up after a while. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on, right? Either areas lighting up, right? Green, red. What is that? Is that for heat or?
So for your daughter's case, in every case, it's color Doppler we use, and that's basically, it detects motion. So you turn it on and you'll see red or blue. Typically motion is blood flow. It could be anything, but we use it to detect blood flow. So if the blood is going towards my probe, it shows up red. If it's going away from my probe, it shows up blue. There's areas of the body where they need to have blood flow. And then there's areas of the body, like let's say you have a mass. If your mass has blood flow, that's typically not a good thing, so we're just seeing the vascularity of structures and everything like that.
Wow. What do you think the most important ability you need to have in doing this job, whether you learned it, or not? What would you say that is?
I think, how do I say, like the way that you think. So, and that's a very broad statement, but if I see, I'm going to use examples. If I see dilated vessels in an area on a male in the reproductive area, and it's on the right side and not the left. So a varicocele it's called, which is basically varicose veins in the testicles. If I see it on the right side and it's not on the left, well, I need to find out why it's on the right side. So I have to go and kind of critical thinking, like, okay, this shouldn't be on the right side. Is there a mass somewhere in the abdomen? Do I have to go up and look at that? It's if you see one thing, you kind of have to think outside the box and try to figure out what's causing that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's like, well, then you are doing a diagnosis, right? And I'm going to imagine that during your training and your education that they gave you suggestions about what all that meant, right? And then within that framework, is that what you're saying? You're starting to explore it?
Yes. So we're technically not supposed to diagnose. So I can't tell the patient what I'm looking at. I know what I'm looking at, but I'm not allowed to say, because God forbid I'm wrong. The doctor, the radiologist reads it differently. Then I just opened up a whole can of worms. So we need to know, basically in layman's terms, like what looks bad and what looks good. If I do see a mass, is it fluid filled or is it solid? If it's fluid filled, it could be one thing. If it's solid, it could mean something else. I need to know, okay, the blood flow to this structure. If it's going this way, that's appropriate. If it's going that way, then then something's wrong. So we don't diagnose, but we know what we're looking at. And if I don't take the correct pictures and be thorough, then the doctor doesn't see it.
Yeah, that's quite a responsibility. And then, so you've got to like that exploration. You like that analytical process, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And
that's why I think I do better in a hospital setting, because you do in my opinion, everybody's different. There's nothing wrong with outpatient, but hospitals, you just see so much more pathology and so many abnormal exams, I feel like I'm always thinking and trying to figure out the next step every shift. Whereas outpatient, it's usually more routine and checkups and follow-ups and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can see that it would be stimulating in that way, right? There's the excitement of it. Yeah, I can relate to that, definitely. Can you tell me what about people skills in your job?
Yeah, that might be one of the hardest things. I enjoy talking to people. I think I am a people person. But it's not like TV where the patient shows up, "Oh, doctor, thank you so much." Or like, it's not like that. You get a lot of people that are scared, understandably. People usually aren't in the hospital because they want to be. So, and that kind of comes out in people different ways. So we get combative patients. We get patients that are just, without better way of saying it, they're just straight up rude. You have patients that have psychological issues. You have to know how to handle that and go about that. And you need to know when to comfort somebody, but also at the same time, you need to know, okay, I'm putting my foot down and I'm terminating this study because you're being abusive. So it's kind of like, you have to know how to deal with a bunch of different people, really.
Yeah. I would say a lot of employers tell me that it's the people skills that make the difference in an employee that's going to really do well for them. And I'm saying that because there are a lot of people out there, I think, that they already have people skills. They might not yet have the technical skills, but I think there are a lot of people out there that have developed these adult skills and they're raising children. That's a skill in of itself, but there are people that are out there driving Ubers and part of the gig economy and any part of the service economy where it's just critical to be able to deal with all these variables in human temperament, and they're unpredictable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how different people were. I knew there were different kinds of people, the way that they acted, the way that they carried themselves, but when you work in a hospital, healthcare period, I think you come across all different kinds of people that you didn't even know existed, honestly.
I can understand that. Do you think you could give me an example of when your people skills were helpful in getting the job done?
Yeah, I mean, every day, really, every patient. I had a patient recently. He came down for a scan. I think it was his abdomen. And he was nasty. Like, there's no other way of saying it. He was very rude, short. He was like very uncooperative. And of course, I'm human. So in my head, I'm like, what's this guy's problem? But I'm like, all right, try to put it in perspective. He doesn't feel good. He just got told that, blah, blah, blah about his health, and it's scary. And he just found that out. And so he was quiet. And I was like, so do you have any kids? I tried to just make small talk, and he wasn't having it at first. And then I just said to him, I was like, listen, I know that you're nervous. Okay. I understand that you're scared. I'm sorry that you're going through this, but I'm trying to get the best images possible for you so that we can find out what's going on with you. So if you could cooperate with me, you're going to have a better outcome, essentially. And he started to cry. And he's like, I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm so rude. And then of course, after that, and the tears start coming out, not only you find out that he's thinking, they're thinking that he might have cancer, but then it's like an iceberg. Like, that's just the tip of it. And then they kind of spill out everything else that's going on in their life. And so you kind of have to have that compassion towards people, even when, not that they don't deserve it, but even when it seems like they're not wanting it from you, because there's always something. So that was one time. That happens all the time, though. We get a lot of patients like that.
I know. I think it's it's identified more and more as a skill, is learning to connect with one another. It's not you're right. It's not easy because, yeah, I've got those days too where I'm feeling it's personal. And then I have to back up and go, how can I help this person?
Right.
Don't take it personally.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's hard, but you got to do it.
You have a really interesting story, I think, about how you got into this job. Can you tell me the education that's required for this job and then what your track into this career was?
Yeah. So it depends on which kind of school you go to. For the school that I went to, it was required to have 2 years of, college credits, just taking your prerequisite classes, and then you can apply to the ultrasound program and eventually hopefully get accepted. And then you have to, my school specifically, you had to finish, a lot of them are hourly. Like you have to have a certain number of clinical hours to pass and graduate. For my school, we had to have the certain amount of clinical hours, and you had to complete a specific amount of studies, different kind of studies, and have them signed off by a registered tech in order to graduate and get your degree. But there are, like I said, there's a lot of different schools. I originally wanted to do nursing, and I was in high school. I wanted to be a labor and delivery nurse, which still interests me. But I think it was a little bit of just like rebellion too. I'm like, everybody's going to be a nurse. I don't want to be a nurse. I don't want to be like everybody else. So stupid. And then I also saw the birthing video in health class, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can handle that. So I looked into it, and I feel like everybody kind of goes into ultrasound, be like, oh, I want to work with pregnant people and babies and stuff like that. So originally that was the plan. I was 18. Both my parents didn't go to college. And I'm the middle of 3 kids. My older sister, she did college for a little bit. It wasn't for her. So both my parents really didn't know how to navigate the next step for me, like how it sounds crazy, but they didn't know how to like get me to where I needed to be because they didn't do it themselves. So I was 18 and went to technical school, went to Sanford Brown to try to apply for their ultrasound program. I went with my dad, and we sat with the recruiter or whatever you want to call her. And she basically told me like, oh, our ultrasound program is extremely competitive, and we recommend that you do our medical assisting program first, just to have a background in like medical terminology and stuff like that. And my dad not knowing, and obviously me not knowing, I was 18. We were like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And so I went through the medical assisting program without any intention of ever being a medical assistant. But the school was a technical school, which, not saying that technical schools aren't good. This one in particular was basically a scam. And they just wanted my money. So I did the medical assisting program. It was awful. And then in the process of going through that, I was asking around about their ultrasound program, which I do know people that went to that school for ultrasound, and they're amazing techs. So I don't want to like poo-poo that. But I found out they weren't accredited. And, obviously they don't tell you that when you're sitting in the meeting. They want your money. So I decided I was going to look into other options to go to ultrasound school. So, and then I eventually found the program that I went to. I went to Muhlenberg Snyder Schools. It's affiliated with JFK Hospital in Edison, New Jersey, and kind of took it from there. Did my 2 years of prerequisites, and then applied for the program, got accepted, and then did that program.
Now, is that a community college program, JFK?
Yeah. Okay. So they go through Union County College.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great. Just trying to help folks out there that might want to explore it. Union County College. So what was the tuition difference, do you think, in those two schools?
It's hard to say, honestly, because I was 18 when I went to Sanford Brown, had no concept of money whatsoever.
Yeah. Most people don't.
And then Right. And I'm trying to think. I think the medical assisting program, I applied for financial aid and got it, but it was, I think without it, it was like $15,000 for a 9-month program.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? And if I can just
Right.
pop in here and say, folks, this happens all the time. And anything that's advertised on a bus, public transportation, or on late night TV, step back. What you want is a program that's accredited for whatever discipline you're interested in. And do you know who accredits your profession, by the way? Do you have a sense of that? If you don't, that's fine. But
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. We just want to be a good shopper with these degree programs, and we want to get the best bang for our buck. And right now, the best bang for your buck is at a community college, if you can find one near you. Here in New Jersey, we're really lucky. We have a new grant program, and if your household income is $65,000 or below, you can attend with free tuition. But there are many other programs in New Jersey and in other states affiliated to support community college attendance. And those will often be your best value by far over a for-profit. Thank you for letting me give that little ad there, but this is about being a good consumer. Like you said, most of us don't know. We trust those people sitting behind the desk. And sad to say, but we can't, right?
Yeah, definitely. They come off, especially to an 18-year-old. I mean, now obviously it's almost 10 years later. I'm like, okay, I know people can speak well and they can carry themselves well, and they, they seem very professional and everything. And what they're feeding you is just, it's not legit. And you would never know as an 18-year-old or a parent of a child who the parent themselves didn't go to college. You have no idea. You have no clue.
Yeah. And also, isn't there a gap, if I'm correct, between 18 and 28? When did you get your degree?
I was 20. How old was I? It was 2016. I graduated from ultrasound school.
Okay, so you've been out there. I just noticed with a lot of people, and that's why I'm saying it is, try not to make that first mistake, because it is expensive, because she did have, I don't know how much in debt, but the full tuition was $15,000. Then you're in debt. You're still earning minimum wage. And often this just intensifies your struggle, right? So I know a lot of people that went into retail, but they also then had that debt. So that made it harder for them to get out from underemployment, basically. Right.
And also, the schools, the technical schools that, well, I shouldn't say technical schools, the schools that aren't accredited, they will tell you, you'll get into this ultrasound program and, you can start working after. But now these hospitals, these people that are hiring for ultrasound, they want you to sit and have your boards, your like abdomen, OBGYN, you have to pass physics, the boards in physics. And if your school wasn't accredited, you have to work for a year in a hospital or wherever doing ultrasound before you can sit for the boards. But these hospitals and these people that are hiring, they don't want to hire anybody that didn't take their boards. So the chances of you getting a job that will take you without any certifications, without taking your abdomen OBGYN, are very slim. So how am I going to work for a year if no one's going to hire me?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's how they get you.
So accreditation, you're looking for a seal on any of the literature from the college, from the training program that is affiliated with a national nonprofit. Then visit that page and take a look at what they're recommending as the educational track into that job. Then turn around and look at your community college and say, are they offering that track? That means often they will say, this will prepare you to sit for the board exam. Correct?
Mhm.
Something like that.
Yes.
Yes. And that's what you
Yes.
want. And that way you won't get stuck, like Carly is saying, where you're sort of between a rock and a hard place with some training, but not enough to make that jump into full employment. What advice would you give someone who's interested in doing your job?
Oh, there's a lot. I'm sure 10 years from now, the advice would be different. So I've been working for almost 5. So for right now, I'm saying you have to be willing, and this is anything in life really, but you have to be willing to really like completely dive into this program. It is not easy. I think people think that, oh, it's a 9-month program because that's what is advertised on TV by all these like technical schools that aren't accredited. But the programs that are accredited, mine specifically was 2 years straight. The girls in our class, my class was 10 people, and they all had to quit their jobs because it is that intense. You're in school full time. You're doing clinical rotations in different hospitals. You're driving I was driving my one clinical site like an hour there and back, sitting in traffic on the turnpike. And so it does stop your life for 2 years. But is it worth it? I think so. So you really have to be prepared for that.
So you couldn't have done this part-time, you think? No, this is a full-time thing. So sort of the whole family kind of has to wheel around it. Say a lot of people out there now, people returning to school, they may have already started a family. I'm just thinking of them here. And I know that's tough, but sometimes it's just better to bite the bullet, because at least you know where the finishing line is. And I think that also vagueness, again, is a real problem for people. So this is the clear path we're talking about, right? A clear path to employment. Carly took it from Union County Community College, the program within it, right through that. And do you think that you needed that CTE as a medical assistant before? No. If you had to go back and do it, you're 18 again, you have now the benefit of hindsight, right? Or someone to advise you, which I think we need a lot more of. You would just say, go right in to Union County College.
No, it didn't.
Do your degree.
It didn't prepare me at all. There were little things like the medical terminology, but you learn that. I just learned it again, when I went to the JFK program. No, it was completely, in my opinion, for me, unnecessary. I didn't feel like it benefited me at all.
Thanks for listening. Please visit our Instagram page at Careers Without 4 Years for more information about today's episode, including links to pay scales and to the Commission on Accreditation of Allied Health Education Programs to help you find an accredited diagnostic medical sonography program near you. Take care.